This is a video by Bernie Sanders. AI could wipe out the working class. AI will wipe out the working class. It's going to wipe out, I think, 80% of the working class.
Thanks very much for joining me. You know, in the midst of these unprecedented and crazy times, government shutdown, Trump's devastation of healthcare in America, climate change, the move toward authoritarianism, the horrific war in Gaza, the growth of oligarchy, etc., etc., etc. I want to take a few minutes talking about another issue of enormous consequence that just doesn't get the kind of attention I think it deserves. Everybody agrees that artificial intelligence, AI, and robotics are going to have a transformative impact on our country and the world. There is very little disagreement about that.
Absolutely.
There are, however, very strong disagreements as to what those impacts will be.
Anybody who is not aligned on that is fucking delusional. I think it's so obvious where AI is going. And the only people that don't think that are either people coping or the business owners of these AI companies saying that so they don't get regulated. That's it.
Who will benefit from these changes and who will be hurt?
Yes.
So here is my take.
I think that if nothing is changed from the current system that we have right now, we will be entering into a new age of neo-feudalism. I think that we're already seeing the first vestiges or the first, little indicators of that with food delivery services. Think about how many people's jobs it is to just simply perform a menial task for a person that has more money and disposable income than they do. I think this is becoming more and more common. Food delivery, grocery delivery, all of this stuff is happening. And I think that what's going to continue to happen is that as AI allows a small percentage of the population to consolidate the wealth and resources around their means of production without needing the cooperation of the rest of the working class and even a majority of the upper middle class to, effectively cooperate with them, they can do it on their own at scale. This is going to create a massive disparity of resources that I think will rival Rome. I think it will be that bad. It will be just like the Middle Ages again.
Some of the very wealthiest people in the world, including Elon Musk, Larry Ellison, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and others, are now investing hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars into these revolutionary, transformative technologies.
Of course.
Now, why is that?
Because they
work.
Why
are they doing that?
Because they're good.
Is it because they want to improve the standard of living of the 60% of our people who live paycheck to paycheck?
It's actually higher than that. It's 60%. It's 6 or 67. It's very high.
Americans who are struggling to pay for groceries, healthcare, housing, education? Maybe. Maybe they are staying up nights worrying about the working families of America. But I doubt it. I think it's because investing in AI and robotics will increase their already incredible wealth and power exponentially.
Here's the thing that is true, for sure. They are guaranteed doing it because it will increase their power and wealth. They might also be doing it because it could help the society. But the second one is absolutely why they're doing it. That's a for sure one you can bet on. Why didn't he mention Nancy Pelosi? Because Nancy Pelosi isn't a business leader that's developing AI systems like Sam Altman or Jeff Bezos or Microsoft or Elon Musk. Yeah, she's just an old crone that it's in Congress. She's been in Congress for like 150 years.
Among other impacts, the artificial intelligence and robotics being developed by these multi-billionaires will allow corporate America to wipe out tens of millions of decent-paying jobs.
No, hundreds of millions. Maybe in America, I think that AI, whenever it's finished, will cut out 200 million jobs. Probably more than that. I think people do not even understand the level of automation and technology that we're going to have. Only? Yeah, you're probably right about that. I'm talking about the next 30 years. That's lowballing it. Yeah, it's going to be massive. And I think that we're going to have, like, there's going to be a global social shift towards people no longer, like, what do you do whenever you can't get a job? There aren't any jobs. Are we going to have another Great Depression? Are we going to have COVID-20 where, like, 95% of the population dies? Like, what's going to happen? I don't know.
Cut labor costs and boost profits.
Yes.
The result? The wealthiest people in the world will get even richer while working families lose their jobs and their income.
Well, and he's right about this. And there's also another component to this that, like, how many of you guys have had AI well, I'm gonna pull somebody up in chat. How many of you guys have had AI implemented into your job where now you are doing the job of 3 or 4 people at scale because of the technology and the improvements in technology? So this is a me right here. It seems like this guy's talking about this on a professional level, so we're going to assume that he's telling the truth. Did your pay double? Or triple? Or quadruple? Are you now getting paid twice as much money? No. No. Okay. Well, so where's the money going? Because obviously the value is still there, but it's not being allocated to the people that are creating the value. This is, again, more of the value being siphoned up to the very top percentage of the people running the company. That's how it's happening. There you go.
And unless we act, here is, in my view, I don't claim to have all the answers, but in my view, this is what is likely to happen in the next 10 years. Now, as a member of Congress who vigorously opposed the disastrous trade agreements that decimated communities throughout this country, I, like most Americans, want to see manufacturing rebuilt in the United States of America.
That's good. I agree.
But let us be clear. New factories won't mean much for working people.
That's true. It will be a consolidation of resources and wealth inside of our economy that provides us with a structural advantage whenever technology and automation completely takes over. It's a good idea to do, but he's also right that we're not going to go back to the old days of working at your, your union job, cranking a wrench at an assembly line 3 hours a week, and then you get paid $500,000 a year. Right? Like in the 50s, adjusted for inflation, obviously. Yes.
The jobs are done by robots instead of human beings.
There it is. Yep.
Elon Musk has said he wants Tesla to build millions of robots.
Smart.
And what will these robots do?
What people do right now.
Well, obviously, they will replace the men and women working in our factories,
Absolutely.
warehouses, and in restaurants and in other areas.
And I do think that it's fair to bring in this other point, which is I also think that AI will act as a multiplier for people's efforts. So the Industrial Revolution is a good parallel to this, where the Industrial Revolution also was a massive technological time of innovation that gave people the ability to produce way more with certain types of machinery and technology. But I think this is different. I think AI is different because the purpose of automation and AI in a lot of these cases is explicitly to remove jobs. Whereas with the Industrial Revolution, I think that the primary focus with that was to increase production. But I do think that both of them did the same thing with removing jobs and increasing production. But one of them was like, number one and number two, and the other one was the opposite. That's my analysis, at least. True, faster production? Yes.
That means millions of good jobs could disappear.
Absolutely.
It's not very complicated.
Yes, so obvious.
And of course, it's not just Musk.
Exactly.
Amazon, owned by Jeff Bezos,
Yes.
has already laid off 27,000 workers since 2022.
That's it? Holy shit. What the hell is he doing? They're going to make some better robots. Only 27,000 people.
The company now has more than 1 million robots working in its warehouses, and soon these robots...
Hold up. Wait.
2022. The company now has more than 1 million robots working in its warehouses.
I'm going to give a hot take. Good. The real problem is not that... The real problem is not actually that robots are taking our jobs. It's that we need jobs to survive. Nobody wants to work in an Amazon fulfillment warehouse. The place is a shithole. It sucks dick, and it's probably a terrible job. So the real problem is the way that the society is structured and built around the expectation that you will have a job. That's the problem that needs to be solved. Because you can't stop progress, you can't stop innovation. If you do, somebody else on the other side of the world won't, and they're going to beat you. It's the same as the people, like, imagine just if America, we just decided, yeah, let's just not build the nuclear bomb. Yeah, we think it could cause too many problems. Imagine how much different the world would be right now. You have to build the bomb. If you don't build the bomb, somebody else is going to build the bomb, and they're going to control you. That's it. It's do or die. And so humans fix the robots? Yes. If you really think that you're going to train all of the people that work in a McDonald's to be robot technicians, you are a retard. And
soon, these robots will outnumber human workers in Amazon facilities. In 2016, Foxconn...
Oh, is this the fire?
The massive manufacturing contractor for companies like Apple and Google, replaced 60,000 workers in a single huge factory in China with robots.
Absolutely massive fucking Foxconn W. I hope I never say that again in my life. Those factories that people worked in were such fucking horrors that they had to put nets in between the stairways so the people that were working there who were locked inside of the building, there was a fire that happened in one of these buildings. It killed everybody because they couldn't leave because they were locked in. They put nets on each of the different stories so the people couldn't jump off and kill themselves. Those jobs do not need to be maintained. Those jobs are not enriching to people's lives. They're horrible sweatshop jobs that trade your physical health for meaningless fucking Happy Meal trinkets. We should be working as hard as we can to make sure that nobody ever has to do that job again. You see what I'm thinking? You guys see where I'm at with this?
Now, the company is planning fully automated factories. And just a few months ago, Foxconn CEO Young Liu predicted that artificial intelligence will make it unnecessary for large corporations to outsource jobs to low-wage countries.
Oh, there it is. That's the reason why people in Indonesia are rioting, through a second or third order effect of this prediction. Because a lot of those countries, their wealth that they had was primarily through manufacturing and doing low-wage jobs for more developed countries. Now that they don't have access to that because those jobs have been replaced with technology, they're now having to deal with creating their own economy and losing that massive injection of wealth and revenue. That's the reason. Yeah, the textile industry. Look at how big that is. It's huge. China's sweating? No. See, that's what's interesting, is that even between 2016 and now, China has made leaps and bounds. Like, China is not what it was in 1990 even. Like, the country is way more developed, way more advanced than you would even imagine. And a lot of these countries now, besides China, are now being the manufacturing places instead. And you can see this, like, if you go back, like, go to the store next time you're at Walmart or Hobby Lobby or Target, and you'll see, you know, if you're I'm 35, right? Whenever I grew up, everything said made in China. Now, less than half of things say made in China.
You know why? Because robots will be doing most of the manufacturing work.
That's right.
However, it is not just manufacturing jobs at risk. Most of us want to see the United States develop a strong, clean, and efficient transportation system.
A lot of Vietnam, yeah.
Including the production of millions of new cars, buses, and trucks. But if Musk and others get their way, those vehicles won't be operated by truck drivers.
That's right.
Bus drivers.
And they shouldn't be. Being a truck driver is an extremely grueling and physically strenuous job that can create multiple health problems and issues. And it's also extremely isolating, and it causes other problems as well. We shouldn't be looking forward to and trying to protect the industry of truck drivers. We should be trying to find a way to protect the industry of truck drivers and the people that are part of that industry from being left behind from technology. I think that we're only one, I think that like we're, do you see kind of what, I think that all of these issues are addressing a symptom and not the disease.
Or taxi drivers. They will be driverless vehicles.
Absolutely. And
Millions
the world will be a better place because of it. Because overall, driverless automated vehicles will be infinitely safer than ones with actual human drivers. And by the time that we're his age, hopefully if we're that lucky, he's 83, 84, something like that, it will be illegal for us to drive cars.
Jobs in transportation will be eliminated. This is not science fiction. It's
reality.
already happening.
Yes.
FedEx is using...
Well, I mean, like, you can use FedEx. Well, look at Waymo. Like, we have Waymos here in Austin, and we also have driverless Teslas here, too. I've seen them on the road.
Driverless trucks to haul heavy loads along the I-45 corridor between Dallas and Houston through a company called Aurora. Walmart is using autonomous trucks for short-haul deliveries in Arkansas through a company called Gatic.
Good.
Kodiak Robotics has partnered with IKEA to conduct driverless deliveries in Texas.
Yes.
Waymo is operating self-driving cabs in Los Angeles, Phoenix, San Francisco, Atlanta, and Austin.
I'm in Austin.
We all want to see more startup companies and small businesses.
Yes.
But for workers, that will mean very little if half of all white-collar entry-level jobs are eliminated over the next 5 years.
I think this is another really big component, and I think it adds another existential problem onto the AI, is the way that AI is removing jobs and the direction that it will be removing them in. Is because AI is effectively pulling the ladder up from new trainees and new people getting into industries. Because those experienced people that have the 30 years of experience, in order to become the person that can do the work of 10 people with AI, that person started at an entry-level job, but now they don't have access to those entry-level jobs, and so they can never even work their way up. And so that's really another really big problem there, too, is that it's going to be affecting people that are lower and the lower class, the working class, much more effectively. And it just makes sense, right? Because like an entry-level job is easier to do. That's why it's an entry-level job. And so it's probably going to be easier to automate. I mean, this is not a guarantee, but it's a trend.
And that is exactly what has been predicted by Dario Amodei, the founder of Anthropic.
They all predict
one of the leading AI companies.
The only ones that aren't are the ones that are lying.
As the ranking member of the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, I just released a report finding that AI, automation, and robotics could replace nearly 100 million jobs in America over the next decade.
That is in the next 10 years. And also, just to put this into context, the U.S. population is about 355 million people. So the amount of unemployed people right now is, I think, like, let's say it's 10%, if you're counting people that are no longer looking for jobs and outside of the job market. So if you are taking out, and then you also take out kids and people like this, so how many people, I'm going to ask the internet this, because I don't know what the answer to this is. How many people are working a job in the U.S.? I think it's 150 million. But let me ask it. Well, fucking just give me the thing. 163. There it is. Yeah, as I said, as always, I just make things up and they turn out to be true. Yeah, there we go. I mean, this is the reason why I don't read statistics. I just make them up. And yeah, there you go. And so keep in mind that, like, somebody might be thinking, oh, well, there's 300,000 people in the country. It's a third, right? No. He's saying that out of the 163, 100 million are gone. That's more than a rapture. That's more than a Thanos snap. That's over half. They're gone. There you go. How many of those are legally working? I would say probably at least 150. Sure. Unemployment stats only include people that are actively looking for a job. Did you listen to what I said about how I said I would also include people that are no longer looking for a job? Did you listen whenever I said that? I understand that unemployment is, there's frictional unemployment, seasonal unemployment. There's other types. I think there's fucking like 2 more that I just can't think of right now. I know that. That's why I said it. That has nothing to do with what you're just, like that video that we watched yesterday? You just did it. You literally just did it right there. We know that. Everybody knows that. It's obvious.
Including 40% of registered nurses, 47% of truck drivers.
I think higher.
64% of accountants, 65% of teaching assistants. And
bro, Flippy? Oh, shit. Flippy just doing work. Damn.
And 89% of fast food workers, among many other occupations.
Yeah.
And as bad as that may seem, I'm afraid it
gets
could
worse.
Be an underestimate.
It will get worse.
In June, the CEO of Ford, Jim Farley, predicted that AI could eliminate, quote, literally half of all white-collar jobs in the U.S., end quote, within the next decade.
This is what's very important about this, is that Bernie is only talking about this in the context of the next 10 years. Well, assuming we don't have World War III, there will be year 11. And what about year 17? And what about year 25? Do you think that it's just going to stop there? No. This is going to be a scaling mechanism. I think it's going to go like this. And I think the 10 years from now is right here. I think eventually it will start leveling off because it will just run out of jobs to get rid of, right? But whenever we're really seeing it pick up speed, I think that's not even going to be a little bit longer until a little bit longer after that. Like, this is like, and I'm not saying like, but this is the, there's, futurism, like techno stuff, like the singularity level. Like, I think the 10 years will not even include the singularity level advancements. Which part of the line is robot prostitutes? I hope it's the whole thing. I'm so excited. I can't wait.
Jim Farley, Ford. Elon Musk said this year that as a result of AI and robotics, quote, probably none of us will have a job. If you want a job,
there it is. Yep.
That's kind of like a hobby. You can do a job. But otherwise,
exactly.
AI and robotics will provide any goods and services you want.
Exactly. And so it will become increasingly more important at this very moment right now. It is so incredibly, profoundly important that we create social systems and a government that is pre-ready for this to happen. They're basically ready for this to happen. And that's the big problem that we have right now. And I really appreciate Bernie making this video because this cuts through all of the black, white, trans, Muslim, Christian bullshit. This is an existential threat on the human race. And it's going to be happening to the entire world. It's going to be bigger, I think, potentially than even climate change. In fact, it might actually be very connected. That's what I'm hearing. But my point is, this is a real, legitimate, massive fucking issue. We need to worry about population decline? Yeah. Bernie's point here is to nationalize literally everything so the government control our entire lives. I haven't heard that so far. I don't agree with that.
Earlier this year, Bill Gates predicted that humans, quote, won't be needed for most things, end quote, such as manufacturing products, delivering packages, or growing food over the next decade due to AI.
Yes.
So, my friends, here is a rather big question. If Musk and Gates and others are only half right in their predictions, what happens to the tens of millions?
If they're only half right and it only takes out 50 million jobs in the next 10 years, that means 1/3 of the entire American workforce will be out of a job.
Americans who no longer have employment because they can't find jobs that don't exist.
Is this the precursor to UBI? It's inevitable. It's inevitable. Anybody that can't see that is delusional. It's either UBI or we bring back slavery. One or the other. Which one would you guys want more? Would you want slavery back or would you want universal basic income? Both? I like that. Seems like it's pretty 50-50. Actually, no. Now we're getting a lot of slavery enjoyers. Okay. Huh. All right. That's nice.
In this brave new world, how do these Americans pay for health care, food, housing, and the other necessities of life? But it's not just economics. Work, whether being a janitor or a brain surgeon, is an integral part of being a human being. The vast majority of people want to be productive members of society and contribute to their communities.
I think he's bringing up a really good point here, and I don't know. Like, I am basically a robot in a lot of ways. I don't feel the same way that other people do. I don't think the same way that other people do. Whenever I was watching that video about how the robot was telling people to kill themselves and to poison people and to blackmail them about, adultery and stuff like that, I was really freaking out because I was thinking to myself, wait a minute, this psychotic fucking psychopathic AI thinks exactly like I do. So I don't understand this, but there are people out there that get a lot out of being a contributing member of society. I don't get, that's just weird to me, right? But I hear there are people that feel this way.
What happens when that vital aspect of human existence is removed from our lives? Further, and now we get into some pretty deep stuff.
Yeah, I think it's an existential cultural problem, and I don't know how you solve it. I really don't. Because I don't understand it, because it's a feeling I just can't even comprehend. To be honest. I try to, but I just don't. I mean, maybe I'd have to talk to people more about it and see it play out more in order to understand it. Faxman, you're a celebrity? Is this celebrity thinking? No, this was me at 7 years old. They were like, what do you want to be whenever you grow up? I said, I want to steal people's stuff and then defraud the government and play video games all day with my friends. How'd that turn out, huh?
The rapid developments in AI will likely have a profoundly dehumanizing impact on all of us.
True.
In many ways, it will actually redefine.
I think that it could also have, in the longer term, a rehumanizing effect. Because a lot of people who trade their body for labor and turn their body into a machine to perform labor might have, in the longer term, if we were able to create social structures and social systems that can support it, the ability to pursue things in their life that give it true meaning rather than investing 40 to 60 hours of their life in doing something that they don't enjoy, that destroys their body, that they're only doing in order to stay alive. So I think that there is a there is a light at the end of this tunnel, but 99 out of 100 tunnels, that light is the train coming towards you. Hopefully we'll be in the 100th one, right?
What it means to be human, fundamentally alter our relationships to each other and the very nature of what we call society. Can AI and robotics be of help to us in many ways?
Yes,
absolutely. I believe they can.
Oh, it's not even a question. And everybody talks about AI in the context of generating anime characters with very, very large breasts. However, there's also AI and technology that's being used at scale with medical development that just really has so much levels of use and function, it's insane.
I am not a Luddite.
He's smart.
The goal, however, is to make sure that the new technologies being developed
serve the interests of the people.
Human needs,
yes,
and not just further enrich
the 1%.
A small number of multi-billionaires.
Yes, keep in mind, this is another really, really cute statistic. This one's really nice. Over 90% of the wealth growth inside of the economy following the COVID depression or recession was completely owned and enjoyed by 1% of the population. So just let me make sure you understand that. Over 90% of the growth in wealth in the last 4 years inside of the stock market was enjoyed by 1% of the population. That's why, that's the reason why I've said, so you? Absolutely. 100%. I made so much money. Yes, absolutely. I know that because I see it. I see it. You're right. And that is what's happened. And so big over. Yeah, exactly. And so you own nothing and be happy. So what I get him, guys. Yeah. Well, anyway, my point is that this happens. And so whenever you see the stock market going up, that doesn't mean anything. That's not real. All of that wealth and all of that value is consolidated inside of a small handful of people and its theoretical value to begin with. Keep that in mind.
We do not simply need a more efficient society.
We need a new society.
We need a world where people live healthier,
yes,
happier, and more fulfilling lives.
And that will never be in an Amazon fulfillment center. I'll tell you that for sure. And so we should not be fighting against it. We should be fighting about ways to counteract the second order effects of automation replacing jobs.
So where do we go from here? And again, I don't have all of the answers, but here are just a few ideas as to how, in my view, the advances in technology can benefit
Let's hear it.
Ordinary Americans and not just multi-billionaires. First, we must move to a 32-hour work week with no loss in pay.
I think that everybody should be mandated a pizza a week, one pizza per week. I agree. The problem with this is that, especially as jobs become, I understand his point of view, right? I do. But what my concern is with this point of view and this approach, I think he's right in principle, but I think in practice it falls apart, is that as jobs become more competitive, you're going to have people that will be able to work not only 32 hours a week, not only 40 hours a week, but 60 now. Because now you have the same amount of mouths that are competing for even fewer food, even fewer jobs. A pizza a week, yes, you get one pizza per week. And after that, they put you in jail.
Think about it. Today, American workers are 400% more productive than they were in the 1940s when the 40-hour work week was first established.
That's true. And so also, by the way, and this is very, very common graph. So you can see this is productivity versus wage stagnation right here. And sorry about this. There we go. Is this going to be a better version of it? Okay, yeah, disconnect between productivity. And this is why he's using 1940 as a frame of reference here. Look at this. Hourly compensation versus productivity. So even 32 hours, what's funny about this is 32 hours sounds like it's not a lot, right? But, at least compared to 40. But if this is proportional, it would be less than 20. Think about that.
Artificial intelligence and robotics will greatly increase that productivity. Workers must benefit from that increased output through a shorter work week. A 32-hour work week with no loss in pay would be a major step forward in improving the quality of life for millions of Americans.
I think that's I agree, but again, I think it's a stopgap solution, because the problem is that if you're being paid for 32 hours a week, they also might just pay you less money. And also, like, if you go back to the beginning of this video, the other statistic that Bernie cited that was over two-thirds, around two-thirds actually, of workers in America, people in America, are living paycheck to paycheck. So really, I mean, again, this is a bit, I'm not trying to dissect and like criticize a whole lot here, but what I'm saying is that you need to approach this problem from like 50 different directions.
Second, we must require large corporations to allow workers to elect at least 45% of the members of their boards of directors, similar to what already takes place in Germany.
That's an interesting idea. I've never really heard about this. I'm just hearing about this right now. So I don't have an opinion on, I don't have like a snap opinion on this.
Workers need a seat at the table to best determine how AI is used in their companies.
Fundamentally, I agree. Like, actually, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that reasoning, but I agree with the idea that workers should have a seat at the table. I think that right now, like, unions can be problematic and tyrannical, but I think right now unions are tyrannical and problematic at a much less ratio than the corporate ownership and leadership is. And I think that we need to have more unions, support more stuff like that, and you know, that's what I believe. It doesn't mean I think unions are the solution, but I think the power imbalance is too much in one direction. But unions can also be corrupt too.
If Tesla workers were on their
unions are suffocating these jobs. I think that you can go back to, like, you know, for example, railroad unions when coal, like, I'll give you an example of that point that you're making. Railroad unions, this is my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but there were guys that their job used to be loading coal into the engine of a train, and then once engines stopped using coal, then these guys just kept their job, but they just sat there and did nothing. That's an example of a union overreach that is not beneficial for the company, and it's not beneficial for anybody. A job should not have an obligation to, a company should not have an obligation to keep your job on life support. A company's function is to make money. A government's function is to take care of people. We should be looking at the government to do this, not trying to strong-arm companies into doing it.
Board, I doubt very much that they would be rewarding Elon Musk with $1 trillion pay package.
Yeah, he's going to get a lot of money out of that. That's going to be crazy if he gets that.
Third, we must greatly increase profit sharing at our nation's largest corporations. In my view, workers should receive at least 20% of the stock in companies they work for. Corporate profits should not just be going to enrich wealthy stockholders and the billionaires who own them. Fourth, we need to substantially expand the concept of employee ownership in America. When workers own their own businesses and are more involved in
This is something that, for me, I've always tried to do with a lot of cases, is that, and I like paying people on percentages and on a performance basis. I think that's how you get the best workers, and that's how also, like, this is why, like, even in Warcraft, right? Like, this is a bit of an aside, but, like, even in World of Warcraft, like, I would give the best items to the best players. Because I think that if you give people if you reward winners, you get winners. If you reward losers, you get losers. Winners want commissions. Winners want percentages. Losers want baselines. Losers want guarantees. That's my opinion.
The decision-making processes, they will make choices that benefit everyone in the company, not just the people on top.
Yes.
Fifth, instead of providing billions of dollars in tax breaks to companies that are throwing workers out on the street and replacing them with new technologies, we should enact a robot tax on large corporations and use that revenue to improve the lives of workers
I think that's the first draft of a good idea. I don't know if that's a good idea immediately, because my first impression of that, my just initial instantaneous, shoot from the hip opinion is just like, okay, well then they just move the company, they just move it off overseas, right? And they'd move manufacturing overseas again, and you'd have the same problem that we had in like the 70s or 80s. So I don't know if that would solve the problem, but I think that the concept that he's talking about is legitimate. I agree with. But that implementation, I don't know if I really would. I think you'd have to really kind of go down and fine tune that.
Who have been harmed in this transition. Bottom line, AI and robotics will bring a profound transformation
Tariffs come in. I understand.
to our country. Nobody denies that. In my view, we must fight to make sure that these changes benefit all of us and not just a handful of billionaires.
And also the people that are invested into their companies. The top 5 to 10% of the population will benefit, disproportionately from AI, and will be a massive enjoyer of AI and the value that it creates in their lives and in their stock portfolios. So you are going to have people that will be benefiting from that. But it's not just the billionaires. It's really a top 5 or 10% of the population. Like those of you guys that are like, if you guys right now, if you're making over let's say $300K a year, you're probably going to be fine, right? Because you're going to have enough money invested by the time that this really happens that you can just kind of start compounding and snowballing, and you're going to be fine no matter what. But the issue is that, $300K a year, yeah, there's guys that make that much money, sure. Millionaires, yeah, no, I mean, it's extremely uncommon, but it's like top 1% revenue, top 1% salary in the United States for an individual is like $400,000, right? The fuck is this? Not interested. Is this a mean or a median number? Oh no. I mean, I got it right for West Virginia, but I live in Austin. It went up drastically over the last few years. I thought the 700,000 figure was for families. I didn't know that was for individuals. I thought it was for families and households. Holy shit. And think about this. Top 1% height. Top 1%. How many people do you know that are over 6'4" or 6'4" or higher? Like, I probably know 20, 30 guys that are over 6'4" or 6'4" or higher. So really, yeah, 9%. So think about that. In order to contextualize what is 1%, think about going to the grocery store and how many people do you see there that are 6'4" or higher? Maybe 1 or 2. So yeah, there you go. Bro out of touch in Batcave? No, that's the point that I'm making, is that the reason why I'm comparing height is because height is something that people readily see, and I'm providing a frame of reference for how common it is versus height, because people see that all the time, but they don't see the money all the time. That's my point. That's the point that I'm making with this.
Let the debate begin.
I thought it was 6'3",
and
actually.
We need your participation.
As long as in high school, that's what they told me. I mean, again, I think Bernie Sanders is the only person talking sense with a lot of these actual working class issues. I think he's the only person that's looking at this from the perspective of a legitimate American worker rather than a fucking mind broken identity politics, mentally ill Twitter warrior. He's one of the only guys that's talking about this. And even if you disagree with Bernie Sanders on a lot of his other viewpoints on different topics, I really think that this issue specifically, I think he really has a good grasp on it. And I think he's one of the only guys out there that's talking about this in a legitimate way. And I think that we need more people out there talking about this, because if we don't build something that is basically if we don't build something that's ready for this whenever this effectively singularity does happen, then we are going to look at a type of social unrest that will make BLM look like, you know, a nice evening in 1995. It's going to be awful. Mass crime. Yeah, the whole thing. It's going to be absolute fucking chaos. Social collapse. Yeah, it's going to be horrible. I'll read a few more of these comments. I'm extremely opinionated about this. I'm very passionate about this topic. I care a lot about this. And so I know a lot of you guys, you know, we've got a lot of people on all ends of the political spectrum. People sometimes are not fans of Bernie Sanders, but I hope you guys can look past that. I like Bernie Sanders, by the way, but I hope you guys can look past that and really see the nature of what he's discussing and see how important this is. I really care about this a lot. I think it's profoundly important. And it's a existential problem that will be affecting the entire world. Andrew Wang was 10 years too early. I mean, I know that. I agree. Like, I agree. I liked him then. I like him now. I thought he was right then. I think he's right now. And yeah, he was just early, right? It's like Microsoft making a tablet in 1999 or 2000 or Google Stadia. You didn't have a bad idea. You had the wrong timeline. So it's that simple. I agree with his intent, not his solutions. Yeah, I think that's really fair. Absolutely. He's been saying this shit for years, bro. I've yet to see a single thing he's done for us. I do like him a lot, but he doesn't change much. I know. There have been a number of bills that he has been the only vote against the bill because the bill was in one way or another more corporate welfare. That's the point. That's the problem. Is that there are so many other people in politics, and I'm not saying Bernie Sanders is perfect, but what I am saying is that a lot of other people are way more imperfect than he is. He doesn't change much because he's consistent. Yeah, he's just not good about thinking about big picture. I think that he's a great messenger for this problem regardless. Problem with Bernie is that he let the radical left use him as a vessel for their identity politics. I don't know why he did that. I don't really think that he did entirely. I see your point of view, and I think that there are instances of that happening. But what I think is much more a much more realistic assessment of it is that radical. This is going to be, again, I've said this before. I don't want to go super into the conspiracy fucking rabbit hole, but what I think happened is that after Occupy Wall Street happened and all those fucking executives saw a bunch of random unwashed masses outside of their Manhattan penthouses and actually asking for a cut of the a piece of the pie, they said, "Oh my God, this is horrible. These Democrats might actually cause us some real problems." And after that, I think that there was a top-down, business-minded, top 0.001% effort, concerted, intentional, manufactured, and completely artificial, intentional infusion of an injection of identity politics to poison pill all Democrat social and fucking economic positions. I think it's after 2012, that's whenever shit went downhill. That was 2012, 2011, that was the end of it. And then by 2014, you had Gamergate, you had these fat feminists trying to replace skinny girls in video games because they can't stop eating pasta. It's so fucking annoying. But the real problem is that they effectively and they intentionally poisoned the Democratic Party. That way, the Democratic Party would never actually be able to unite in any sort of a legitimate way and consolidate any sort of class consciousness at all. Because we were close to it, and it scared the shit out of them, and that's why they did it.